What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you guys remember in the last video, I revealed the new wheels for the LS400 and they are by 7K. They are called 7K Caddies. They are probably the coolest set of wheels that I could have gone with this car with floating center caps and everything. They are just super cool. So I've been spending a lot of time on the front wheels, getting them all fitted, dialed in. I'm pretty happy with where it is right now. Right now the car won't go as physically low as I would like to appearance-wise. I will be going lower in the future, but for now I don't really have a choice except to run it the way it is. I'm either going to install the roll center adjusters, which are in that white box there, which I installed in the last video, but I ended up taking them out. They threw the camber off. They ended up adding camber but pulling the entire wheel out, so my fitment was off. I was having an issue fitting the wheels on the rear. That's why I was only working on the front, because my rear suspension, besides the coilovers, was completely stock. And when you're doing stuff like this, that's not a good thing. So thankfully I was able to actually source a set of Serial 9 rear upper control arms as well for this car, just like the fronts. And they just came in yesterday. But my main goal right now is to get the axle out so that I can actually take the control arm out and install the new one. Issue number one that I'm running into is the angle of the axle with the way that the coilover is in right now. The axle is pretty angled upwards, which might be putting a lot of tension on it. So I don't know how easy it's going to be to take off. All the bolts came off really easily. Those are already all loose, ready for me to take out, and so is the front axle nut. If anyone's wondering, it's a 32 millimeter. It's not a 12 point. It has a cap on it. You have to take the cap off, which is just a cotter pin. So that's easy enough. So I'm gonna work on getting this axle out, and then once it's actually out, I'll show you guys the new control arms for the back of the car. All right, well, that actually went way smoother than I thought. I thought the angle of the axle was gonna completely throw me off and I wouldn't be able to get in there with anything, but it went really easily. Popped right out, used a screwdriver, helped pry it a little bit, and we're golden. So now, I obviously still have to take the control arm out, but I wanna show you guys the new arms. So in the front of the car, I have Serial 9 upper control arms. And now for the back, I also have Serial 9 upper control arms. These I got off of a friend of mine, and I'll leave his Instagram right here. The day that I was test fitting these wheels, I couldn't fit the backs, and so I was instantly discouraged. And I ended up finding out that he was parting out his LS400, which had a ton of super cool aftermarket parts on it. So I DM'd him super quick, was able to score these for a good price. And they're going to help me get to where I need to go. Finding Serial 9 stuff used is like finding a needle in a haystack. As soon as it's for sale, it's gone within a half an hour. So the fact that I was able to hop on, grab them like that, I'm super thankful. Guys, so about 20 minutes later, got the control arm out. Now that the axle was out, I had plenty of room to access the top ball joint nut here. And then just gave it a couple good whacks with a hammer. Since we're not reusing this ball joint, I just hit the actual stud portion from the bottom up, and that popped out. So now this is on a lot of tension because of this coilover being so small. So what I'm gonna have to do is drop the car down, jack it up from the bottom, that way that I can actually disconnect the coilover from the whole subframe and then go about that route. So that's what I'm gonna do. Unfortunately, you can't get these out just by unbolting them. You actually have to take the coilover and unbolt it so that you can slide this through. So that's what I have to do. Just like that, control arm's out. Now I have the fun time of putting the other one in, making sure the coilover lines up, because this coilover is so small, it actually throws the whole hub off when you try and put it in. But that went a lot smoother than I thought. I might actually get this done tonight. All right, so I got the upper control arm in, right? Fits. It was a little tight because it's a lot smaller, obviously, but it's in. Now, on camera, so I'm facing directly against the car, you might notice that the hub is pointing to the right, this way. Oh boy. I've discovered something. I went to go install everything back together, and there was quite a bit of struggle trying to get everything to line up. More so than I had with installing the coilovers. That I was able to fix pretty easily. With this, it wasn't lining up at all, and it was like really, really weird. So, to humor myself, I grabbed the passenger side coilover, which is clearly labeled on this arm. Right. So, I put it on top of the driver's side coil, and what do you know? It matches up. So they labeled the sides wrong, and I went by the labels, and now I gotta take this arm back out and swap it. I test fitted a wheel on this, even with the hub not bolted up. I just jacked the hub up to where it kind of would sit, and we're gonna have a lot of camber. I wasn't trying to shoot for complete Bippu style camber with 20 something degrees. I wanted, you know, it to match the fronts, which is definitely not going to happen right now. So yeah, this will be interesting. But I'm going to pop this arm out and probably only do this side for tonight just because I'm beat. But I will check in with you guys when everything is back in on this, and we can see what it looks like with the wheel on. So I put the correct side control arm in, adjusted it as far out as I was comfortable to. Usually you would leave the same thickness of the stud itself in threads. So if the stud is a 1/2 inch, you leave a 1/2 inch of thread actually threaded in to the control arm. It's usually like 6 or 7 threads. Anyways, did that, comfortable with that. Put the wheel on. The back lip of the wheel was just barely grazing the coilover. So I put the slip-on spacers from the front on the back, and this is where we're at. On the lift, mind you, that's where the front is on the lift. This is where the rear is on the lift. Already tucking just a tiny, tiny bit. Now my worry is when I lower this down, the wheel's gonna camber in more and hit the coilover. So we'll see what happens with that. I left like 5 mils of clearance between the two. It could be like buttery smooth close, or I could need a 10 mil spacer or something like that. I have room to adjust the quarter panels too, cut those out, do all that stuff. I just had them rolled for the time being because that was just the standard to do. But I'm gonna drop it down. Let's see where it sits. Down we go. Please don't puncture my coilover and do something crazy. All right, it's not that bad. I could go a lot lower than that, for sure. So I just went under the car, and it's just barely touching the coilover. I could probably roll the car back and forth, but it's still kind of on the lift. Now that that's the case, I looked under here for quarter clearance, and we have probably, I would say, like 10 mils worth of clearance that we could do. So I can get a 12 mil bolt-on spacer, I think, and do that, as well as lower this back down an inch. I raised the coil over an inch to help me get the control arm in, so that's why it's sitting kind of high, but you can expect it to sit an inch lower with a little bit more poke than where it's at right now. And we'll be clearanced for the coil and clearance for everything else. So I'm gonna call that a win for sure. I'm tired as hell. It's probably midnight. I'm gonna get this thing back in the lift, get the Supra in here, and then tomorrow I will get it all finalized and good to go there. So I'm so pumped on this. We're that much closer. We got one side in. Let's do the other side tomorrow. What's up, guys? It is the next day or the next evening, and figured I would pick up the camera to show you my progress. Driver's side is all in and dialed. I'm pretty happy with where it is and how it's sitting. As you can see, we have quite a bit of camber, but it tucks up there nicely. Doesn't come anywhere near contact of the quarter panels, and it's pretty closely matched to the front of the car. It's got slightly more than the front, but for now, I'm pretty content with that. Passenger side, I finished installing today. All of that stuff is in and tight. Haven't had time to install the axle on the passenger side yet, and it was actually a lot more of a nightmare to install than I thought, because now I have all this extra camber making this much smaller. I went to put the driver's side axle in after everything was dialed in and I was getting ready, and Adam and all the guys were out bowling, and I was like, man, I got time. I'll get all this stuff in. I'll even take the car. I'll go bowling with them. It'll be so much fun. I get the axle. I'm trying to put it in and it won't go in. I'm getting really, really angry. I ended up smashing my finger against the subframe and bending my fingernail basically completely off my pinky. So that sucks. That kind of put a damper on things, but Trevor from Motion Auto TV, Trevor and Tyler, they're here hanging out. They're going to that FL2K drag event this weekend, so they're chilling here for the time being, but Trevor came and helped me get the driver's side axle in, so shout out to you, Trevor. I appreciate it. One thing that I love about doing crazy low car builds is how they look at all times. This car being on the lift and still looking like this is probably one of my favorite things about this. It just looks so cool just chilling up there. All basically aired out like the Soarer, but when the car's off the lift, it's probably another 2 inches lower than it is on the lift right now. But I just think it looks wild. Alright guys, it's been a few days, and in the last clip you saw that I was actually able to fix the passenger side rear axle. What ended up happening was I got the driver's side done, I got the control arm in, I got the strut adjusted, I got the axle put back in, and then when I went to go do the passenger side, it would not come out at all. And I forgot to put a nut on the threads when I was hammering, and I ended up mushrooming the threads that go into the hub of the back of the car. So then after that, I was like, well, the axle's already that far gone. I'm just gonna keep hammering. Eventually got the axle out. And then in the last clip, I was able to shave off the threads that were all mushroomed, was able to get the nut back on. So that axle is fine. Came back here tonight, put the axle in the car, and this is where it sits for now. The back is the fun part. The front has got a little bit of baby tuck going on there with the top of the wheel itself, but the back is the fun part. Now these cars have lower arches in the back of the car. That's why they tuck more in the back, but oh yeah, that looks super, super good. Camber is a little bit more in the back than in the front. I would say it's probably 2 degrees, maybe 3 degrees more. I am shooting to match camber in the future, but for now, this is what I got. Passenger side is all taken care of as well. Tucked in there nicely, not coming in contact with any part of the quarter panel, which I'm stoked for. This thing is still really high off the ground. I've got like 3 pieces of wood in the front. I've made this weird contraption, and then I've got these GK Tech ramps in the back. So it's gonna be interesting getting this down tomorrow, but I definitely wanna take it for its first test drive. What's funny is you notice with those roll center adjusters that I put in previously, how they correct caster. Now that I've got the car on the ground, you can see where the wheel is tucking and how it's further back and not directly in the center of the fender. And that's what those roll center adjusters correct, but I just can't run them at the moment. This thing looks too good. I'm so pumped on this. These wheels are the perfect fit for this car. It's 2:30 in the morning. We just got back from Clutch Kickers. We're absolutely spent. It's the next night, and I just wanted to get this done super quick so that I can drive it in the morning, which I'm super stoked on. So I'll see you guys then. All right, it's the morning. Time to try and pull this thing out. I don't even know if it'll get over your little lift hump there. At least the exhaust.
Look at that thing you got rigged up. I'm excited to watch this. Do you want me to pull the ramps out?
If possible, yeah.
I got you.
All right, let's see if it goes.
Coming down.
Kinda.
It's a version of a dream you had at one point.
Alright, first drive. Alignment is very bad. I think I can get it aligned either today or this week at some point, but it is bad. I am dragging on everything. Oh man. I don't think my wheels are rubbing or anything, but underside of the car is getting a grooming, we'll say. It's a little sketchy, but I think once the alignment is sorted out, it will be a lot better. But right now, this car's a little all over the place. Oh my God, this thing slows itself down. I don't even hit the brakes, it just stops. Well, this is definitely the lowest I've ever been, and this is what I wanted. So, I've got to make the drive and clearance the underside of the car, or else it's just gonna be like this the whole time. So, first drive, really stressful, but hopefully from here on out, it'll be a little nicer once everything is disappeared under the car. God, this is like, it's eating at me a little bit. I'm honestly a little stressed. I'm trying to remember if I forgot anything. I'm like at that point where, did I forget anything? Wheels gonna fall off, like are they tight? The goal is to get this thing to the shop. We're about a third of the way there, closer to half. If I can make this sharp turn, there's a sharp turn coming up. If I can make it, I'll be pumped. Because right now, the front fitment is pretty tight. I'm not as tucked as I had wanted to be in the front, but until I get my subframe raised and this exhaust doesn't exist anymore, I won't be able to go any lower in the front. Oh, we got this. Hell yeah. The only thing that's really nerve-wracking for me right now is just the car kind of going all over the road because the alignment is so thrown off. Thankfully, the shop next to Adam's just got an in-ground alignment rack installed, so I think we'll be set up well for that. I can just pull that in and they can adjust everything from there, because from here, I sure as heck cannot get on a normal alignment rack like this. No sir. All the smells that I'm smelling are not tire related, so I'm pumped on that. There's enough clearance between the wheel and the coilover, so it's not rubbing against that. All the smells are just frame, which is good, and exhaust. Oh, she's a road reflector eater. Yes. I love it. Love it. A lot of people probably hate it, but I love it. Little anxiety inducing. Alright you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've had a blast with this car, and for the first drive, I think that it went pretty well. There's a lot of stuff that I still need to do to make it more drivable, and today's experience was definitely the worst it will be. The exhaust is very, very low and is constantly throwing sparks, so that's going to have to get addressed. I also want to get the front knuckles angled and raise the subframe. That will help in a lot of aspects, and hopefully after that I will not have too many clearance issues under the car. But it's exactly how I pictured it. These wheels just fit this car so well. Once again, huge shout out to 7K. They make insane quality wheels, and these just stood out to me so much that they were perfect for this car. So it's late. I'm heading home to Massachusetts tomorrow, so I might make a video up there with all of my hometown friends. So I'll see you guys then. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a good night.